we have an incredibly fun video for you guys. I'm going to be taking some cardboard and some wood and turning it into a very cool music audio visualizer. So make sure you guys stick around for this one. It is going to be a lot of fun, and the end result is very mesmerizing. I'm Barrett. This is Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. So the other day I was scrolling through Facebook and I actually saw an ad that caught my attention for once, and it was for a very cool music or audio visualizer. So as you can see on the website here, you do have a lot of RGBIC options, but the one that I was particularly interested in is the Spectrum LED strip, which allows your LED strips to react to music. And because I am a big fan of RGB and RGBIC, I contacted the company and they were gracious enough to send this light strip to me so that I could put something together to show to all of you. And that company is called Lightwoo. If you are interested in checking out their products, I do have a link down in the description below. And if you do use the coupon code that I'll post right up here, Spec of Tech in capital letters, you will get an extra 20% off your purchase. But as I said, Lightwoo was gracious enough to send me this one so that I could build a little project for you guys. And speaking of the project, let's get into what you need and how I built it. So first things first, you are of course going to need your Lightwoo product. So in this case, I have the Spectrum LED strip lights. So then you're going to need something to mount the LED lights to, and I would suggest something that's light but also rigid. You could also mount them to your wall as well, but I chose to mount them to something different so that I can move it around the house if I want to. So a few options that you could mount these to, you could use a pre-wrapped blank canvas, you could even use a piece of corrugated plastic and then you could just put a frame around it, or you don't even have to frame it if you don't want to, or you could just mount them to the wall like I said. But in my case in particular, I just happened to have a nice perfect size piece of cardboard that was very rigid and about ½ inch thick that came from TV packaging. So the piece of cardboard I have here is 26.5 inches wide and 44 inches tall, which is pretty much perfect for the Lightwoo strips, which are 3.28 feet each. But the edges of this cardboard don't look the greatest, so I did decide to frame it just to make it look a little bit cleaner. So I purchased two 1x3 inch boards that were 8 feet each and cut them to the appropriate lengths, and then built a simple frame out of them to go around the cardboard backing. So if you did want to make this frame look a little bit nicer, of course you could use 45-degree cuts just to make the corners look a little bit nicer, but I just wanted a simple frame. I also used two extra pieces of the 1x3 board in the back, just to have something for the cardboard to mount to, as well as to add some rigidity to the frame. So then I wanted to paint the frame black, just so that it wouldn't stand out in my room. So originally I did want to use one of the blackest paints in the world, which is Black 2.0. I'll drop a link down in the description, but then I realized it was going to be about $56 for 150 milliliters just to import that into Canada. So I decided just to use some matte black spray paint. I'll also be using the frame to mount the LED controller to, just to kind of hide it and keep it out of sight. All right, so now that we have the frame built, it's time to get the cardboard backing painted and mount the LED lights to it. But real quick before we do, consider subscribing, tick the bell icon if you do, and please take just 1 second out of your day to hit that like button. I truly do appreciate it. All right, so now that you've subscribed and hit that like button, let's get into the cardboard backing. So before we paint the cardboard, I did want to mark out where the LED lights were going to go because I have to punch a hole through the cardboard for the connections to be made at the back. So the cardboard itself is 26.5 inches wide. So what I did is I left 2.25 inches on either side of the cardboard and then mounted each light strip 2 inches apart. I also left 2 inches at the top of the cardboard as well as at the bottom of the cardboard. So once I had that all marked out, then I punched holes straight through from the front to the back so that later on we can make the connections for each LED light strip. And now that we have that done, let's take this cardboard outside and get it painted. So the spray paint that I'm using here is about $9 a can. Plus tax, and that's in Canadian dollars, so I'm not sure what that would work out to the US. So when I wanted to paint this cardboard, it was -2 degrees Celsius outside, so it was a little bit chilly. So I was in a bit of a hurry to get this done, and I ended up dropping the cardboard on one of its corners. So in the footage, you may see that one of the corners is crinkled a little bit, and that's because I was rushing to get out of the cold and warm up inside. Now that we have the cardboard painted black, it's time to test the lights before mounting them to make sure everything works. And I'm sure glad I did test these lights out before mounting them to the cardboard because I did run into some issues. The first problem that I ran into is one of the green wires on one of the light strips was actually completely disconnected. So what I had to do is I had to cut through the heat shrink that was kind of over top of these wires and solder that green wire back on. The second problem that I ran into is once I got everything hooked up and I had the controller wired up how I thought they wanted it wired up, nothing was working. Even though I could connect to the controller with my phone and the app, the lights weren't working at all. I even did try several different wiring variations in case the wiring diagram was wrong, but I never did get the lights to work. So I contacted Lightwoo, and to their credit, they did get back to me fairly quickly with how to wire up the controller, and lo and behold, the diagram that they had sent me was completely wrong. So I will attach a picture here on how you're supposed to wire this up, and I have made the suggestion to them to make sure that they supply the proper diagrams with their product. Another suggestion that I made to Lightwoo is to make their product a little bit more user-friendly or a little bit more plug and play. No, it's not very complicated. There is just some wiring to connect. As long as you have the right diagram anyway, it's pretty simple. But at the same time, a lot of people just want to plug something in, mount the lights, and have it work for them. But besides all that, once I had it wired up exactly how they showed me in the picture, everything was working fine, so it was time to mount the LED lights to the cardboard. Because I had already made sure that the holes were straight and measured them out, it was fairly simple to get the LED lights on, at least fairly symmetrical and fairly straight, simply by lining up each end with each hole. Each LED light strip has its own adhesive, so you just peel the blue backing off, and then you can stick the light on to whatever surface you decide to stick it to. One very important thing to note here is that each light strip has a female connector on one end and a male connector on the other end. The LED controller itself has a female end, so wherever you want the power to be, you want to make sure that your LED light strip that's first connecting to the LED controller is a male end. So then, of course, at the opposite end, you're going to have a female end. So make sure that your next light strip that you're placing works with that configuration. So you're going to want to have a male end at the top to connect to the female end, and then they just get daisy chained together along whatever you're mounting them to. So if you are going to build one of these and you are using a frame with some bracing, just make sure that the bracing isn't going to get in the way of the connections that you're going to make with the LEDs at the back. So originally I thought that I was going to need to glue the cardboard in, but because I made the frame so snug, the cardboard just slides in and there's enough friction there to hold it in very snug without any glue. So now that we have the LED lights mounted and we have the frame pretty much completed, let's quickly cover how we wire up the LED controller itself, which I already had to do to test the lights earlier, but let me just show you some diagrams here quick. It's very simple, very easy to do. All right, so on the LED side of the connection, you have one white wire, one green wire, and one red. So the white wire with a green strip on it, you want to wire that one into the ground section. The green wire you want to mount into the DAT section, or I'm assuming that means data, which has a green dot. And then the red wire you just want mounted to the VCC. And then on the opposite end you have the power side, which has a little power adapter included in the box. And it's just a black wire and a red wire, which are marked off on the LED controller. So you just mount them with their respective colors and you're all set. All right, so now that we have them connected and we have it in the frame, we just have to connect the LED light to the controller, which I've mounted inside the frame. And then after that, all you need to do is hook up the power adapter, which is pretty self-explanatory. And after that, you're all set. There is two different ways for these lights to react to music. You can just use the internal microphone that's built into the LED controller, which I find a lot easier, the simplest way. But you can also hook up an auxiliary cable or an AUX cable to the LED controller and have it react to music that way. So whatever source that you're using, you would have to use a Y splitter for the 3.5 millimeter auxiliary cable, which is included in the box, and then you would just split it, one to the source and one to the LED light controller. All right, so now that we have this thing completely built and everything is finished, you will need the app on your phone so that you can control the LED light controller, and the app itself is called LED Cord. There is a quick start guide included in the box, and if you scan that QR code with your phone's camera, it should take you directly to the app, or you can simply search for LED Cord on the Android or iOS store. All right, so here we're going to go through a quick tutorial on the app. So once you have it installed, it's called LED Cord. You simply find that in either your Android or your iOS store. Once you open the app, you're going to want to find your device. So this one in particular is the SP107E. So just click on that, and then it'll connect. So now it's connected to it, but it's not on until you press this little button here. So now the device is on. As you can see, it's already reacting to my voice. And then you want to make sure that your segments are set to 12 and your pixel or /seg is set to 20. The reason you set it to 20 is there's 60 lights per strip, but each chip controls 3 lights. So divide 60 by 3, you get 20, hit enter, and now you're in the interface here. So here's where you can change everything and customize everything. So when you see a setting like this, where it has all the bars are set to a specific color, as you can see when I change that, it changes the color not only on the device itself pretty much instantly, it changes it in the little diagram here as well. So you can change the bar lights itself and then the falling pixels or the falling dots, what they call it, to whatever color you wish. Just a little side note here, the colors don't seem to match up with the slider, so you kind of have to look at what color you're getting when you slide it. As you can see, I slid it all the way to the right, so it should be red, but I'm getting blue. So this is something that I'm going to suggest to Lightwoo to fix. Not a huge deal. You can still just kind of figure out what color is what by sliding it and seeing what color it changes, but they should at least be accurate on the slider here. All right, so that's in the matrix here. You can also set the sensitivity. So as you see, As I slide the sensitivity down, it's going to start going lower and lower, and I'm not maxing out the sound anymore. And then once I get all the way to the bottom, nothing happens. So this is just turning it up slightly. So as you can see, it doesn't fill up quite as much. As soon as I max it out, then my voice maxes out pretty much every line when I talk. So I usually try to keep that around the middle somewhere. So going to the strip lighting section, most of these are preset colors. So as you can see, once I'm scrolling through here, you get specific colors. But once in a while, you get one like this one in particular. You can actually change the color of it if you want. But most of them, you can't do that. See, as soon as you go to this colorful one here, the color slider is just whited out. You can't actually use it. So there's a few of them that you can change the colors on, but for the most part, they are already pre-selected for you. And the same thing here, you can select the sensitivity because this is reacting to my voice, as you can see. So if you go to the non-reactive menu here, you actually have 180 different choices, as you can see on this wheel here. So you just wheel through them, pick whichever one you want, and each one kind of gives you a different effect with different colors. A lot of them, or you can actually select which color you want as well if you want to, but then you're only going to get that one solid color. So as soon as I touch this, you can see it changes to just a solid color. And you can change the brightness here by sliding this slider here. As you can see, as I slide it down, it gets dimmer and dimmer. And then here you can change the speed of the transition. So let's go to something like this. So when I crank it up, it gets faster, and the lower I set it, the slower it goes. So that's kind of neat that you can change all of that. And like I said, there's 180 options here. So there's so many to choose from, and every one gives you a different effect, as you can see. And then for the most part, you can change the transition speed on them, and you can change the brightness on every single one of them. And then if you want, like I said, just choose a solid color, and then you have a solid color. So guys, that pretty much sums up how to use the app. As you can see in the top here, actually it says auto. I guess this is one last thing that we can cover. When you click auto, all it really does is scroll through them for you. But if you click on them, you can heart them. So like as your favorites, you can mark them as your favorites. As you can see, when I click on them, you get a heart. And when you click on auto, it will scroll through those as well. But that just kind of helps you identify which ones were your favorites. If you scroll through, your favorites will show up as red, as you can see here when I scroll through them. So it just helps you identify some of your favorites. Alright guys, so that pretty much sums up the app. Let's get on with this video. So there are 30 different presets in the Matrix menu. There's 18 different presets in the Strip menu. And then if you go to the non-reactive menu, then you actually have 180 different options of what these lights can display. This is what it looks like with the lights on. As you can see, it's still plenty bright, but let's play a song here and you can see that it's still incredibly bright even with all the lights on in the room. So as you can see, guys, this project was actually a lot of fun, and the end result, I think, is actually really cool, and it's really mesmerizing to just watch these lights bouncing around when you're playing music. Now, it's not something that you're going to want to have on all the time. Let's say when you're watching a movie or just watching a TV show, I think it would be pretty distracting to have this on. But let's say you have friends down and you're just having a drink and putting on some music. You're going to want to put this thing on, and if you have kids like I do, my 4-year-old in particular really likes this thing. Every time I turn it on, she's down here wanting to play music or just going la 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 into it just to watch the lights bounce around. So it is something that's a lot of fun, but at the same time, you're not going to want to have it on all the time, but definitely a cool piece to have in your room. Something pretty cool that I thought of after building this one is you could actually turn it into an acoustic panel if you wanted to, because it does have a 3-inch wood frame. All you'd have to do is put some rock salt insulation behind it, and you'd have a very cool, very unique acoustic panel, and you could turn on the visualizer on and off with your phone whenever you wanted. So overall, guys, I'm actually very happy with how this project turned out. It took very few materials to make. It was very simple, and I think the end result is actually really cool, at least in my opinion. So even though there were some issues with the Lightwoo product itself, like I said, I did make those suggestions to Lightwoo, so I do hope that they make those changes in the future, but it was nothing deal breaker in my opinion. Yeah, the colors don't exactly match up with the color slider when you're changing the colors, which could easily be fixed with a firmware update on the app, and there were a few other complications, but like I said, they got back to me fairly quickly, so their customer service seems to be there. So if there is some of you out there that are a little bit DIY and want to do a fun little project like this that doesn't cost a whole lot, I suggest you go check it out. I have dropped links down in the description for Lightwoo, like I said, and if you use the coupon code SPECOFTECH, all capital letters like it's listed right here, you will save 20% on your purchase. And because those are affiliate links, it does help support the channel so that I can keep bringing cool videos to you guys like this. And if you do want to support the channel, consider subscribing, tick the bell icon if you do, and please take just 1 second out of your day to hit that like button. I truly do appreciate it. Guys, remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Don't touch, don't touch. Don't touch, 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 don't. That's pretty friggin' cool. Now that it's working, it's pretty friggin' cool. La 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 la. There. Daddy turned it off. Let's go.